Good evening, witches.
Hi.
Welcome to week 4 of the Beginning Witch series. Tonight we're going to talk about the witch's box. We'll be with you in just a minute. Good evening, witches. This is not Kat and Jamie. This is Kat and Jolene tonight.
Taking over for my sister.
So tonight, I think you guys might remember, for anyone who was here last week, that Jamie was going to be at some kind of a retreat this week. So many of you may know or recall that Jamie is a military veteran. She spent 7 years in the Navy, and she also did 2 tours as a contractor, one in Iraq, one in Afghanistan. So her ties to the military are very strong, and she was invited to a Warrior Women's weekend somewhere North Georgia. We don't know. It's a secret location. Yeah. But that's where she is tonight, and she's so sad that she can't be here with us. I spoke to her this morning. She was sitting in Atlanta waiting for the ride to come and take them to the compound, or I said compound.
Another compound.
Actually, she said she looked. Didn't you guys look it up? And it's like
we did. We looked it up last night, and this place is adorable. It's real. It really is a retreat. Yeah. The amenities there are amazing. A pool, hot tub. It's a gorgeous place, and they're apparently going to have like their own personal chef. I'm like, look at you. Yeah. So it's going to be really nice for her. So not the compound. I'm like speaking in military terms, like it's a secret thing. But when she was in Atlanta this morning, she's like, she really wanted to be here tonight. She loves seeing all of you. And she especially loves sharing all of her stories that she has. We have our lesson for you tonight. And we're going to try to do justice to Jamie and give you as much information as she does. But she's always got like the greatest stories to tell. And, so which I think is one of the reasons we all love her, because it never ends with her. She can talk for hours. She's a great teacher.
She can talk for hours about anything, or pretty much anything, actually. So
she was the kid that goes, "Did you know?" every 5 minutes. So as a kid falling asleep, I would fall asleep to her telling me like really cool facts about the world and animals and stuff like that. That's how I went to bed every night. So if that tells you anything.
One of the things I haven't said in a while that I want to share with you guys, hand me that book, Joe, is that when I started my journey on the witchcraft journey, I got this little book here, the Solitary Witch's Green Book. It's by Beatrice Minerva. What's her last name? Linden. You know what? And this is just the coolest little book, because it's like a step-by-step, week-by-week exercises for you to do. And you see how small it is. It's not very big, but you can take 6 weeks to do it. So if you're really, really new and you want something to just kind of like take you step-by-step through, it touches on everything. It doesn't go into it, like even tarot and numerology, although it doesn't go in depth, but it gives you a really good, just basic facts about it and little exercises to do along the way. So that's when I read this, and I read it and listened to it a couple of times, I thought it would make a really great series for beginner witches, which is how this whole 13-week series evolved. So if you want a good book as a brand new witch, I highly recommend this. And just to let you know that we base our lessons around what the information that was in this book. So what is a witch's box? All right, so I'm going to tell you, my grandmother was born in 1895, around there, at the end of the 19th century. And, back then they didn't have a lot of things not like we have today, where you have closets full of stuff and knickknacks and all that stuff. But the one thing that I can remember that my grandmother did have was a box where she kept keepsakes. It was probably a jewelry box. It might have been a wooden box that my grandfather made for her. But if you think about those heirloom boxes, we call those heirloom boxes, and they are a part of our ancestral history, no matter where your family originated from. And people and not just women, but mostly women, would keep jewelry in those, or anything special that they wanted to hang on to forever, that they wanted to treasure. You can think of a witch's box in a similar way. And it is things that you want to treasure, especially as you start out as a new witch and you start collecting and acquiring your tools and the things that you're going to use in your practice. You may never have more in it than you know, some crystals and some tarot cards and a wand. I don't know. It just depends on what tools you're attracted to as a new witch. I don't know, Jolene, when you started out, what kind of things were you drawn to as a new witch? What was like your very first tool as a new witch? Do you remember?
It was definitely books because I wanted to gain knowledge first. So I would basically get books, but the crystals and the smell, you know, the incense and just everything when you walk into one of the metaphysical shop, it's just like, oh, it smells so good. And you see all these pretty shiny things and there's lots of books and you're like, oh, where do I begin? But yeah, it was books for me. I was really curious. I wanted to gain knowledge on it. And then once I realized it was really for me, when I went back, I kept feeling more connected, but it was definitely like crystals for me.
Okay, crystals, yeah. And you know, my first tool before I ever knew I was a witch was a deck of tarot cards. I always loved tarot cards.
Yeah.
So your witch's box, and if you choose to have one, and you don't have to have a witch's box, but when you're starting out,
Sorry.
hey, we have two dogs. Hey,
No.
sorry about that. No. Jolene brought her dog with her here tonight, and now they're both going to bark. Joe, put him in my room and shut the door, would you please? So sorry about the interruption. In the bedroom, Tank. Go. No. Sorry, you guys. Excuse us. We should have done this before we started, but we didn't realize.
I had laying down and resting.
And then all that has to happen is someone walks by on the sidewalk out, and my dog thinks he's got to be a guard dog. But where was I? What was I saying? Oh yeah. So when you're starting out, you could just have a box. The reason that you would want a box, let me back up a little bit. The reason that you might want a box is to organize in your tools as you start to collect them, like keep your tarot cards and your crystals in one place. It keeps them from getting dirty. You can tuck them away if you're in the closet or you live with people and then you just don't want your stuff out and sitting around.
Yeah.
One of our exercises for you tonight is to find a box to make. So I picked this box, this little white box here up at a thrift store. And it's just a little, it's not super deep, but it's probably like, it was $2.99 at Goodwill.
It's not that bad.
So, so with something like, oh, it has feathers. That's what was in it is feathers. But something like this would be really fun to decorate. So that's another part of this journey that I think is cool, is that as you get your tools and you get connected with them, is decorating them and making them your own. But a witch's box, so here's one idea. This is a plain one that I never got around to decorating because I found this guy. All right. So this is actually my box. So I'm going to open it up and show you guys what's in it. And it is packed full of stuff. And the stuff in here, there's like a cloth. There's a big cloth to lay out if I go to the beach. There's a piece of black velvet. There's candles. There's, what's this? Oh, that's a pine cone and a little chalice. So there's all these little things. There's some sage. What is that? Crystals, some different crystals. So are you getting the idea of what you can do with the witch's box based on the things that we're pulling out of here? I have even, what is that? That looks like
matches, maybe?
No, this was formerly a weed container.
I don't think you should say that on the interweb.
I don't care. It's legal here. I have my card. And then I've got some ribbon if I was going to do some kind of a binding spell, and bunch of little candles. So, this is something that, well, as you can see, like all these things, if I had them sitting around where, they would be collecting dust, and where would I put them? So that's the reason to have a witch's box, and you may or may not have one, and that's okay. But if you do, they're kind of fun to get a box and put all of your things in. You can use a shoe box. You could use a dresser drawer. You could use pretty much anything that you wanted to that would hold your hold your tools. So wands, books, stones, crystals, candles, dried herbs.
We always have a to-go bag as well. So there's a witch's bag. And I think witches are naturally kind of bag ladies. Like we tend to have a lot of bags with a lot of stuff.
I know we
'Cause
do,
we like to
right?
collect, right? It's like we love the things. So we always have a to-go bag that we take to like the beach because we'll go, on full moon and go do spells or rituals. And so we always have a little to-go bag that's like safe for our candles and our crystals so they don't get broken, so figuring those things out. What you need it for is where you start. What do I want a witch's box for? Do I want it just for decoration because it's pretty and it's cute and I like it? Or do I need to kind of hide it from people, or I don't really want people touching my things? Some witches are very particular, like you're not allowed to touch their crystals and their tarot decks. They don't want the energy transfer, which I've never been like that because I cleanse mine all the time, I guess. But hey, to each their own. But yeah, wanting to keep it private and not have people mess with your
Especially
stuff.
depending, I think it really depends on what's your living situation
Mhm.
and where are you on your journey, and are you sharing your journey with people? Because if you're not at the point where you want to share your journey, but you want to start collecting things like crystals and tarot cards and runes and
Yeah.
sage and candles and things like that, you're going to want a place to store things. So that is the whole idea behind the witch's box. And it can literally have anything in it. But here's the thing to think about. I'm going to back up to the story about my grandmother and her. For now, I'll call it a jewelry box because that's probably how she intended to use it, was whatever valuables that she had, she stored in this old antique jewelry box. So if you think about your own grandmother and a box that she might have had, or even your mother had, and the things that they would have stored in these boxes were things that had sentimental value. And you can imagine that they would take these things out, they would hold them, they cherish them, they would think about them. So those things, I believe anyway, I think we all do as witches, we know we're all energy, absorb that energy and they hold those. So if you were lucky enough, and I wish that I was, to have gotten anything from my grandmother, that if you got something from your grandmother, that has her energy and her thoughts in it. And you can think of her as maybe like as a young woman, a young mother but my grandmother had 9 children. So, that's a lot of kids and a lot of stuff going on. She was super young, but think about the energy that would have been associated with those items that she treasured enough to store in this box and keep away from everybody else. That's one way to think about your own tools, your energy that you will transfer as you work with your tools and you pull out your candles and you light your sage and you spend time with it. Your energy is being absorbed into those items. So,
do you know I still have your jewelry box?
No.
Your really old one?
Oh, here we go. The story of the
I wish I would have had time to pull it out of my storage unit. It's in there, but it's a big, huge wooden box, and it's lined with the prettiest royal blue, like velvet.
I know
fancy.
that is from like 1980, you guys. That's how long I think I had it, maybe even 79, because I got it when I was like 18.
Does anybody else's mom hold their teeth that they lost as a child in their jewelry boxes? Or is that just my mom?
So I know
now I do that.
So
I have all my kids' teeth in my
your baby's first tooth that they lost, or your baby's first haircut. Those things are precious. And when you think about those energetically, like what do those mean? What do those represent? That is like, oh my gosh, it's growth and it's milestones and it's love. Oh my gosh, the love that surrounds us. Like my baby lost her tooth and God's first haircut. Oh my gosh, I remember that so well. So anyway, so all of these things are cherished. So that's how you can think of this box, or if you choose not to use a physical box, then the space that you decide that you're going to make for your tools, because you're going to want a place for your stuff. I don't know. We're in week 4. I'm not sure how new everybody is. If you're brand new to this, you may start intuitively collecting things like dead flowers, roses, rose petals for a spell that you might use someday.
Have you guys ever counted all your jars?
or maybe, nice, Tracy.
Yeah.
Or maybe you have salt, and actually this is salt that was charged under a full moon. This is blue moon salt from October 31st, 2020. It was the second moon of October that year. So it's blue moon salt, and
Yeah.
I've had it since then. So we're going to talk about the elements and where salt falls, which element does salt fall into?
That's hard to say.
You can answer this if you know. So is it earth, air, fire, or water? And you can just put it in the chat. Let's test your knowledge here. So you might have a jar of salt. Of course, these things are much too big for any box. So now I have like a shelf of stuff that's starting to collect, but at least it's not as much dusting. And then in this jar right here, I found in my yard snake skins. So when the snake shed its skin, and I've stored them. I've got a couple of other things in here too, but I specifically save the snake skin. What do you imagine a snake skin might be used for? Think about what is happening to a snake, and just if you want to answer, put it in the that's a good. So we're getting answers. So that's great.
They had a lot of water as well.
Yeah, and you know what? Some of your elements, of course, cross over between.
Yes.
Yeah, so I
Exactly.
think of this as as shedding. Like if I was going to do a spell to get rid of a bad habit, I might use some of my snake skin in it. But as you start on this journey, like right now, I'm going to assume we're starting small and we're just collecting a few things. But as you go, and I think like Jolene said, we're kind of like bag ladies.
Yeah.
So because we like to collect things, we already know we see pretty rocks. We see really cool.
We see purpose in everything. It really is what it is. It's like, I know exactly what I can use that for.
Exactly. And you say that
if I can't right then, I know it's coming soon. I'm like, I know there's going to be a time where I'm gonna
that's
need it.
exactly right. And I think as witches, it's like you can go out. Okay, so let's just clear up one idea in case you've never heard this before, but we don't need tools to do magic because the magic is in the witch.
Mhm.
But the items that we collect and their significance to us or their representations to us, they give the spell more meaning, if you will. And they I'm not sure if that's the right word.
It excites you, right? Like it's touching some sort of your sense, and it makes the energy stronger, if you will, right?
Yeah, I think so. It really elevates the vibration. That's what it is. That's what I was trying to think of. So okay. All right. So I think I covered.
Do you want to answer them about the salt? Is it earth or water?
The salt is actually earth. So Ryan, you were correct. The salt is an earth element. And does anybody know what salt can be used for? What's it for? Anybody? I know what I've used it for, but I'll wait and see if anybody can answer that first. So it is earth, an element of earth.
Protection. Yes.
That's correct. Protection.
Cleansing. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Grounding.
Yeah. All right. Very good.
Yeah.
You guys are beyond a fourth class of the beginner series.
Boundaries also. Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. Boundaries. The way that I use salt in this house is we did a circle, salt circle around the entire house when I moved in for protection and for setting boundaries for people like not to come in. Also, I know if you put this like by your front door and your back door, sort of keeps that negative energy on the other side of that. Okay. Let's see. Huh?
Pretzel.
Okay. All right. So here's your first exercise if you want to participate in it. Find it, and I think that, I think it's a good idea just because it's something fun and engaging that you can do is to get yourself a box, some kind of box. It can be a shoe box. It can be anything. It doesn't matter what it is. You can go to Goodwill and find some cute little box and decorate it, like line it with something, decorate it on the outside and make that your designated space. And even if you'll probably outgrow it pretty quickly if you're like us, because you'll be collecting like so many things. And you're like, I need a whole entire cabinet now because
well, you can actually have several witch boxes for several different things. Make one each for each element.
There you go.
That way, if you're working with the water or the fire, you can grab your box and do, you have all your stuff that you need there for that particular element. If you're really crazy like us. If you want like 7 witch boxes.
So you can put, you can Mod Podge it. You could put pictures on it, depending on how artistic you are. You could put gemstone chips, just anything, go a little crazy and be a little. I love whimsical. That's my personal vibe. Maybe that's yours. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's like super goth or whatever. I don't know, or something else. But go with whatever you feel like and find something to decorate, to kind of like, set your mood, because in a few weeks, we're going to start talking about spells, and you're going to want to have things or a place to put things, I think, to, just start collecting things. I don't know if you guys collect feathers, if you make moon water, but we're going to be talking about all of those things as we go along. So that's your first exercise for tonight. So now we already touched on the elements. So we're going to go through the elements and tell you what they are, what they're represented by. So and then what they're related to, and the color, the season, the tarot. So it'll be a little, and you guys don't have to write this down unless you want to. So you want to take Earth because that's your sign.
Yes, that is I'm a Taurus, by the way, May 12th.
So Tanya, she's given what's your birthday, Tanya? Put it in the chat for us. She's a Taurus too. I want to know how close you are. This is the true Taurus. So I'm Scorpio, and we are, yeah, you guys are very, very close. Does your birthday fall on Mother's Day sometimes?
Oh yeah.
May 9th, it does. She was due.
Mine's like every 6 years or something.
She was due on Mother's Day, and she came about 6 hours late.
Yeah. 3 days after my 19th birthday, and the day after Mother's Day is when I gave birth to my first son. And the nurse comes in and she goes, "Happy birthday and happy Mother's Day." And I was like, "Oh, thanks." Just exhausted from giving birth. I'm like, yay.
Well, Jolene's son, Selena Jolene's son is May 15th.
Yeah. So he was born 3 days after my birthday.
So I am a Taurus. If you know the astrological chart, you will know that Taurus and Scorpio are opposite each other. So we were, which sometimes,
every once in a while,
when she was young, it was really bad because she wanted to fight me about everything. But anyway, go ahead and do the element of Earth.
Yeah, so obviously this one's really easy. When you think of Earth, you think of the dirt, the trees, the animals, the flowers, anything, the color green, the seasons even,
which the season related to Earth is actually spring. And I don't know if that's seemed like it might be fall, but it could be any of the seasons. But spring is officially the season for the element of Earth.
Yeah.
And then the tarot for Earth is Pentacles.
Many
because Taurus are all about the earthbound things, and Pentacles are
we like the finer things in life, or the comforting things. It's not the finer things, because I could care less about expensive things, but it's things that bring me comfort. If it smells good, if it feels good on my skin, if it tastes good, I'm all for it.
She's all about the experience. I wish so. Kim has a Taurus daughter, and she's a Scorpio. Girl, where are you? Where's your
how are you? Should we send help? So the direction for the Earth, Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn are the Earth signs, and the direction for that is north. Salt and green things.
And you like green.
Green is,
but she has green eyes. So yeah, and she looks really good in green, especially with her new red hair.
Emerald. Yeah, especially with my new red hair. That was lovely. Yeah.
Okay, so I think all right, the last one was when we bury old spells or return items to the earth. This is another way of using the earth elements to cleanse and regenerate. So that was kind of a lot. And what we'll do is we'll put this in an email to you so that you can actually add what you want to. So this is some good, like, what are the elements and what do they represent and what sign and what signs are they and what tarot card are they and direction, all that. This is good stuff for your book of shadows. If you haven't done it yet, or your grimoire, make a page for the elements for
Yeah.
each one and write that stuff down so that when you need it for a spell and you're trying to think, you have a reference for it. So that's why we're giving you this information. Okay, so the next sign is air, which is Aquarius, Gemini, and Libra. And raise your hand, or rather put it in the chat if you're one of the air signs. Of course, air is represented by the air we breathe, the wind that blows. It's related to thoughts. And hello, Billy, Aquarius. It's related to thoughts and mental processes. And I guess, you know, I personally have a hard time connecting with Aries, and I think that's because I'm a water sign, and I'm so emotional that my like mind, you know, the whole mental thing, I'm just in another world. I love you, Tracy. Are you an air sign too? Oh, she's next. But
I think it also depends on so many other things, right?
It does. Like, that's true. It
your
does.
moon sign and your rising and all of that.
So conversations or ideas would belong to the element of air. The color associated air has always perplexed me. Who said I'm sorry? Tracy, you're Aries? Okay, you're fire, girl. No disrespect to any Aquarius, Gemini, or Libra. My first husband, actually, my kid's father, both of them were Geminis. Apparently, I love Geminis.
Hey, we all, in some form or fashion, we all have our bad roots. Each sign, you know.
Ooh.
I'm known for being stubborn and lazy, and I don't know what else.
And you guys
All of
already
it's
know
untrue.
Scorpio, like the Scorpio sting.
Yeah, so don't worry about that.
Yeah. So the color yellow is what is associated with air, which is, I don't know why that is so, because where's the yellow come from? But anyway, that's the color. The season is winter. The tarot card is, or the tarot suit is swords. The direction is east. So other representations of air include feathers, incense, yellow things. When we collect or carry feathers, where'd my feather go? I love feathers. We have lots of feathers here in Florida. They're everywhere.
Did you know it's actually illegal? You're not supposed to actually collect feathers.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Some Karen at my job a long time ago tried telling me that. I was so excited. I was like, look at the feathers.
Forgiveness for any Karens that might be on here. So sorry.
Yeah. But yeah, feathers are so fun to collect, especially when you can get multiple different colors, patterns.
Oh, I have like a really big one that it's like 12 or 16 inches long.
Yeah.
It's huge because I think it came off of a pelican. I found it at the beach. But when we carry or collect feathers, we carry with us the element of air and the ease of things that blow through the air, communication, thoughts, and knowledge. So if you have, the way that I interpret this is that if you have a situation where it's going to be tough for you you feel like you're kind of like, you lose your voice and you want strength from something, it might be a good idea to tuck a feather in your book, or like, say you're going in front of your boss for a raise, you know, take a feather with you because that can help you with that communication. So, all right, I'll let you do fire.
Also, in relation to earth and air and tarot cards. So when you pull a tarot card and you see that it's pentacles, try to take the message in the sense that, okay, this is coming from an earthly thing, an earthly place, right? Like, where are you in your physical realm, right? With air signs and it being swords, you're gonna read that card as a intellectual, you know, anything about thoughts, deepness in thoughts, conversations, communication, things like that. So when we tell you that the tarot card is swords or it's pentacles,
well, it can give you an idea sometimes when you're learning tarot, and tarot is one of our topics that we're going to cover in a future session, but we can't get into it deep because it's like a whole entire series on its own, just like numerology and astrology. They're so in depth that to cover them in one session would just be impossible. But to know that if you're doing a tarot spread and you have a lot of pentacles in your card, that this is talking about things related to the earth and physical things on the earth. So you can kind of get an idea of what's going on there. It may help you learn the cards, because that takes practice, or you can intuit them by reading the messages that are on the card or interpreting the signs that are on the card. That's another
Yeah.
that's another week down the road.
For sure.
All right.
So we'll go to fire signs. Where's all my fire signs at? Aries, Leo, Sag.
There we are, Tracy.
So fire is one of
So
the
you have a
ones that-
birthday, Tracy. Where's your birthday?
Yeah, 8/8. Love that.
Oh, the Lionsgate.
4/10, Aries.
410.
Yeah.
Very
That's
good.
awesome.
Okay.
So fire signs are really easy with you know, what the representation of them. I mean, anything red, anything you know, action and change is something that's associated with the fire, because it's the burning, right? The action is happening and it's changing, and there's going to be a process of that and an ending of that.
Lightning.
Yeah. Yep. So it is related to the masculine side. It's fiery, it's passionate. There's a little bit of rage in there sometimes, you know. It's fire signs are fun. Fire signs are fun. Like they're spicy, you know, they're spicy. They're like, they'll kind of, you know,
Keep you on your toes.
they'll give you a little spice.
They're also about creativity and phallic shapes. So
Yeah. Their season is summer.
that makes sense.
Hot. And tarot is wands.
And direction is south. So one of the things I did when and other representations are candles and red things, but one of the things I did when I first started out and I was learning the elements is I set up an altar in each of the directions. So I created an altar, created 4 altars in my house, one facing each direction, north, east, south, west. And I put on this little altar, and the altar was what I got was a placemat that was like the right color. Like for my earth one, I had this woven woolen, like this woven mat. And then for the one that was in the south, it was red. And then I put things that were associated with that element and that direction on those little bitty altars. I called them elemental altars. I left them up for a while. It was just my way. It was my way of honoring those elements, those directions, you know, the meaning of those, and just kind of like to bring this, I don't know, balance into my house, I guess. It was when I first moved here and I didn't know anybody. And, you know, it's like a brand new place, brand new neighborhood and all that stuff. It just, and brand new to witchcraft. And it sort of made me feel connected. I probably kept those altars in place, those little mini altars, the elemental altars, for about a year. They were fun. And then I put them away because they served their purpose. So,
Yeah, I love that.
okay.
I loved when you did that. I was so proud. I was like, oh, wow, look at her go.
It was one of the very first things that I did when I was like,
By
I'm
herself. Like nobody told her to go and put.
to do the
I
altar.
was like,
No.
I haven't even done that.
That was my baby witch beginnings.
So cute.
Okay, so our last element is water. So, you know, you guys don't, if it's water, we're going to start here in a second. I'm just kidding. But no, I'm a Scorpio and I'm all about, this is about emotion and, you know, this is the deep stuff in us, right? So represented by bodies of water,
Whoa.
and vessel shapes like cups and bowls and
Cancer.
chalices.
I love cancers. Pisces.
Yeah. So water signs, I so vibe with other water signs, like just, you know, I think all the signs are unique, but maybe for some, I don't know. I'm probably just speaking from personal experience.
It's personal. Yeah, it's totally
personal experience. Just because maybe it's because I'm a Scorpio, so that's like super deep shit that I can relate to those other people.
But can we all not agree that Scorpio feels a little misplaced in the water area? Like, shouldn't you be fire, ma'am? Like, who screwed that one up? You know what I mean? Like, so, but
okay.
here we are.
Here we are. This is feminine energy. That's probably another reason. So represented by the womb of the goddess and the great mother, associated with healings, emotions, and nurturing. The color blue, I guess because of water. The season for the water sign is fall or autumn. The tarot, we have one left, which is cups. So, you know, the cups hold water. And the direction is west. Other representations, seashells, blue things, shadow self, and anything that can carry water. And there's probably more, but you know, as you guys start on this path and you start, you know, collecting little things. I mean, for me, when I started, it was kind of this intuitive thing where I would go to Goodwill. I like to thrift store shop because I just think it's fun to, one man's junk is another man's treasure and that kind of stuff, you know. And I sold all my shit when I moved from Kansas City. I took one little U-Haul of just my most precious things that I just couldn't give up. Everything else I got rid of. So when I came here, I had an empty house. So I wanted to fill it with things. And I started this whole witch journey with my daughters. And I sort of saw the things. I mean, when I would go to their houses and see like all the cool stuff that they had, I'm like, I want that. So I went on a mission looking for things that I could, you know, fill my space with things that felt, that I connected with in stores. So rather in thrift stores, as reuse, repurpose, recycle type stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so here is your second exercise. Look around your home. So this is what you're going to do. So everybody, all right, look around your house and find a representation for each of the elements. If you can, create an altar. Oh my gosh, imagine that. Remember my example. A small gathering of items on purpose. That's what your altar is. A small gathering of items intentionally put together. Placing each item in the correct cardinal point. So your cardinal point are your directions, north, east, south,
and
west.
And if you're ever confused about the order, it's never eat soggy waffles.
Never eat soggy waffles. I used to, I have to be honest with you. When I first did the elements, I had north and east messed up. I had them reversed. It's like, how did it? Yeah, I had north going, I have north here and east there, which is the wrong place for my altars. But I figured out pretty quick. I'm like, wait, it was in something else that I read. And I was like, oh, those aren't in the right place. Never eat soggy waffles.
Yeah.
North, east, okay. So place them in the correct cardinal point. And then if you want, take a picture and share with us what you put together. So don't go out and buy anything. But just, you know, maybe put together a little elemental altar in your space and just, you know, find the things that you already have in your house. That's really a good way to start in witchcraft, because you would be surprised how many things that you already have around your house that you can use. You don't have to go out and buy stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. So the other thing, as I told you, we're going to provide these. I see people, it looks like folks are taking notes, but we are going to put these elements and their representations and what we gave you into an email for you so that you can copy what you want and put those into your book of shadows. But I do recommend making a page in your book of shadows for each one of the elements, so that you can write things down. And maybe you don't write them all down at once, but as you get familiar with them and they become, then you have them there and you jot that stuff down.
I still reference back to my books and stuff, you know, because it's just helpful to see it in black and white. Sometimes you can draw a blank. I'm like, wait, what do I?
Until you do this, until you do it for a really long time, I find I have to use references.
I've been doing it for a really long time and
I know, I
have to
feel
look
like
things
that
up,
too. So
you know?
if you have to always reference your books,
it's nice
that's okay. That's okay, because it's not like you're you know, doing this, you know, it's not like you're working with your tools all the time. It's something that you pull out on occasion, maybe on a new moon or a full moon, or when you're going through a situation and you want to create some kind of a connection with an element or a thing that's happened in your life, and you want to meditate on it or try to manifest something, which is the same thing as a spell, by the way. Okay, so
let's move on to wands.
Okay, so we're gonna talk about a wand is something that might be in your toolbox. And Jolene would like to talk about wands.
Yeah. So my first big experience, like I was into tarot cards and crystals and all of that, but I never dabbled in doing spells. I think maybe because I didn't have the confidence or think that I had the ability to do it, but I just didn't ever go down that path for a long time in my on my journey. But I finally did it when I was in my 20s. And it's because I was very desperate. It was my birthday week and I had a flight to go up to Philadelphia, and there was a huge storm coming in. And you guys may have heard me tell this story before, maybe sister did, but I basically changed the weather. But one of the things that I needed for that spell was a wand. And I was like, this Harry Potter shit, like where am I gonna get a wand? You know, like I know, like I thought this was part of the comical stuff. I'm like, do we really use it? So the instructions were to go out and go on a nature walk. Don't necessarily look for it, but let something come to you that really sticks out where you're like, I love the shape of that. I love the coloring of it, or I like the length, or whatever it is, right? Let it come to you, pick out your stick, come back, shave off the bark to basically cleanse it of whatever could be on it. And then decorate it how you please. So same with the witch's box, I put a little crystal on top. I glued it on there. I did some fancy work. I did a ribbon around it. I made it my own of what I could, of what I knew a wand would be, and I was like, hope it works, and it did. Because my intention was behind it. I wanted that situation to change so badly that my intentions behind that spell
Was
were
this
very strong. Yes.
Oh, okay.
And it turned into absolute chaos. So 10 out of 10 do not recommend.
Not recommend trying to change the weather
don't
or
change the
control the weather.
Don't do that.
Maybe you want to tell that story really quickly.
It basically, I did change the storm. It blew into another town. I woke up in the morning and I could not believe that it did not hit it. I mean, this storm was supposed to like freeze us over. We were going to lose power. Like it was going to be really bad. And I just wanted to fly out. I was like, listen, I got a trip to take. It's my birthday. I'm trying to get the hell out of Dodge, before the storm comes. But it was literally going to hit at like 4 a.m. and my flight was at 7. And I was desperate. So I was like, yeah, it's just.
But then there was a negative side effect.
There were repercussions. And
so be careful what you manifest.
Yeah. What I gathered from that situation, because I took that trip and I went to see a friend for my birthday, and she was a totally different person. She freaked out. She tried to end herself. It was crazy. It was a crazy week. It was just mind blowing, right? Like I didn't understand why it went the way that it did. And I got stuck at the airport for 2 days. Like everything was just complete chaos. And when I got home, I really sat back and went like, what in the hell just happened? Like, what did I go through, And then I was like, oh, that spell. And I remember when the weather hit the other city, I felt bad. I was like, you guys, that wasn't supposed to be you. Yeah. And then, I felt shitty about that. I was like, who am I to change the path of people and what they have going on? I was not meant to go there that weekend for a reason. I forced it and it didn't turn out well. And I also think when I do spell work, I always think about who I'm going to affect, or if I could possibly affect other people in their life path and their journey, because, you just shouldn't. You just shouldn't. It's not fair. You wouldn't want anybody to do a spell on you and force you to do something, or, you know what I mean? Like change your reality for their own pleasure.
So I didn't do a spell. So I'm going to tell you guys a little story about manifesting. I didn't do a spell for this, but I remember when Katrina was, the hurricane named Katrina, which is my name, was out in the Gulf of Mexico. And it was just a small storm at that time. They didn't know it was going to be a big hurricane, but it was brewing out in the Gulf or wherever it was. And they were watching it, it leads up for 7 days. They're watching the storm. Where's it going to hit? How intense is it going to be? Blah, blah, blah. And it keeps going. And as this thing gets started, because the name was Katrina, and my name is not a very common name. In fact, when I was young, I was teased a lot because everybody was like Debbie or Susan, and I was Katrina, this exotic name. So I was like an oddball. So when that storm was brewing and it was on the news, oh, Katrina, where's it going to be? How bad is it going to be? Blah, blah, blah. I was like, ooh, I hope it's a really big hurricane because I want to see my name in the newspaper. So then you guys know what happened. So that became an infamous hurricane.
You really
so be careful what you say and think about and put out into the universe. I guess that is the lesson there. Is really be careful, because you don't know what your words and your thoughts, how they can change things. You don't know the power that you have.
Yeah.
I was obviously a witch back in 2000 and whenever that was, 5
Yeah.
that hit, and didn't even know it. Because I felt like I did that, and I felt really terrible because that was just awful. Yes, what you think about, you bring about. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Okay, so wands. So I see comments about wands. Yes, Etsy, you guys, beautiful stuff. Oh my
Yes.
gosh, such gorgeous,
Yes.
such beautiful creations. But you realize you don't have to go and spend money. You can go out into the forest, you can walk on the beach, you can walk in a park, you can pick up a stick. And if you know what wands are for, and I think we get into this, we talk about some tools specifically later on, but a wand, when you hold it in your hand, is actually an extension of your finger, and it's for directing energy. So, you know, you're like making a circle around yourself. That's what the purpose of a wand is.
Mhm.
Okay.
And it works.
It so if you have a wand, or if you want to make a wand or go out and find a wand, this is something you can do a show and tell with us on our Facebook page. If you don't have one already, maybe you want to go out and find something. If a wand is something that you think that you would like to have as one of your tools, then go out and find something. Or you could use a pencil, you can use a chopstick, you can use anything. Remember, it should fit in your hand and be with ease, and it's just an extension of your index finger. Just remember that.
And adding crystals to it obviously will, you know, accentuate the energy behind that. You know, I put a rose quartz on mine. That was what was asked for me to do, but you can literally put anything on it. I loved going out and finding my own stick. I was very drawn to that stick.
I brought a really pretty one back from Sedona, like this perfectly.
We are stick collectors.
Actually, you guys, the ideal length of a wand is the length of your, let's see, did we write that down? Your forearm. Yeah, where does it say that?
Right.
Yeah, so that's the length of it. You don't want anything too long, too short, but just remember that what it's for, and we will talk about that particular tool and some other ones in a future
meetup.
I'm losing my
okay?
place. No, not really. Okay, I'm losing my place. So do you want to talk about blessing your wand?
I think so any tool that I ever get or create, like say I put salt in a jar or pick up a spider and use him for something, I always kind of put a blessing over it, if you will, of cleanse it of any negative energy, right? And then also invoking, I feel like is such a kind of it sounds scary, but in my opinion, but invoking your wand and telling your wand that it has a purpose, right? Like this is what you're here for, and this is what you're here to do. Enhance my energy, enhance the spells that I'm going to do. My sister does that a lot with her crystals. So they all know their purpose and their job, depending on what they are and what that crystal represents, you know? So there are different ways to bless your wand. And there's not really a method that's better than the other. It's whatever feels right for you, right? Like, you know, your intentions that you're putting behind it.
It's going to help you do your magic, or it's going to provide provide you assistance as you direct magic, direct things to come to fruition.
The same way we talked about the trinkets, right, that our grandmothers hold and they put their energy in. You want to do the same thing with your tarot cards, with your crystals, with your wands. You want to put your energy on that. So even just sitting with them and not doing any kind of spell or any kind of magic, just sitting in a place of like meditation and acknowledging that it's there with you and it's picking up your energy is enough to really.
Or you can do what I do with tarot cards, which is when I get a new deck of tarot cards, I sleep with them. I put them under the pillow next to me in the bed, and I sleep with them for about a week for them to absorb my energy. I find that's a really good way for them to pick up my energy and connect with me. And it's always worked for me. I don't know where I got that from. I just did it intuitively. So that's another way that you can connect with the tool. Something else that I didn't say, as I go out and pick up things from thrift stores or garage sales or wherever I get things that I'm going to use, is I do cleanse them. And I usually use sage to cleanse them. So smoke for cleansing. but you can also spritz them lightly with water. You could put them under the moon. I mean,
Yeah.
there's lots of ways for cleansing your tools.
Yeah.
But yeah, as you bring things into your space, especially something that you picked up that's been around for a while, you might want to clear it of any energy that it had, so that it's now clear for you to tell it what to do, to have it be your very own without anything else attached to it. Any other?
Does it have to be straight? No.
Nope.
Actually, the more quirky it is, the better I like it.
Well, when you say straight, it needs to be straight in that, if you think of your index finger, it's kind of straight. But if it's kind of the one that I picked up in Sedona, it's not a completely straight branch, but a little branch twig. It's more than a twig though. But you do want it to be sort of straight, because as you
don't want it to go to the left.
Yeah, you don't want it to go to the left or the right.
Yeah.
So in that direction.
Okay, focus, Mom, focus.
I think we know what I'm talking about here.
Yeah, it will conduct the same kind of energy. The energy, remember, it's here. It's here. It's not the wand. It's not the crystal. It's you.
All right.
Is it not good for someone such as your child to touch your wand? That's a good question. I personally wouldn't let my kids touch my wands, just because they destroy everything they touch anyway. And so I would prefer them not to destroy something I worked hard on. But if my kids have been curious about my witchcraft, and I've let them sit around and watch the things that I do. So I would let them touch it in a safe place, right? If we talked about it and I explained to them what it was, and I would.
You probably don't want them
show
playing swords with it.
Yeah, no Harry Potter in the living room with it. Yeah.
Or taking it out in the yard.
You explain to them that it's something that's precious, and it's not a toy, that it means something to you.
And I think, something about your tools, you have to decide. This is a personal choice, because Jolene doesn't like people touching her things. I don't really care, because didn't you say that?
No, I was saying that there are people like that.
No, okay.
Yeah, no, I don't want.
Like my tarot cards. I don't feel like nobody can touch my tarot cards.
Yeah, there are people like that though. I've met.
Yeah, and if that's you, if you feel like that your magical items are going to pick up other people's energy, then by all means, don't let other people touch them.
People's energy is sticky, nasty.
Can be definitely, and you would probably know.
I like cleansing with selenite, Tracy. Definitely selenite is a great one. And also there are selenite wands. So I don't know if you've seen any of those. She's got one. Let's see it.
Oh, very nice. You know what? I think
yeah.
I bought one at the Spirit Fest. By the way, hey,
there are people that make daggers, swords and daggers out of the selenite. It's so cool.
Speaking of tools, so next weekend, or the who around Sarasota, anybody want to meet up at Spirit Fest in Sarasota? If you're going to be in the area, I want to go. Go to the Facebook chat or the Facebook group, because we're going to be there. I think me and Jamie. I'm not sure if you're going to Spirit Fest.
When?
It's April 1st and 2nd. It's in Sarasota, but it's so close, and you can get good stuff there. Just gotta look around. Okay. So the next tool that we're going to talk about is ritual knives. So this is not a tool. I've never been attracted to knives. I don't, this is a ritual knives are a practice made popular by Wicca. There's actually a layout. If you look up an altar layout for Wicca, you'll see that there's a particular way that the Wiccan altar is laid out. There's a god and a goddess, and the knife goes here, and the child. So they're very specific about the way that they lay out their altars, and the ritual knife is part of that. I don't use them. We don't use knives, but you can if you want to, if you're attracted to them. If you, if I was to find a really cool knife, I would probably snatch it up just because just to have it, because I would think but as far as
we're too clumsy, we would probably cut ourselves.
Well, and I think there are there's knives in Wicca. There's with 2 blades, And then there's one with one blade, but I'm not sure, I can't remember what
Yeah,
that
knives
means.
just freak me out in general, so.
So you
I'll
don't,
pass on that.
you know, I mean, do you need them? No, you can also direct energy with them. They are they're also called an athame or a thame. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. It's ATHAME or ceremonial knives, and they're used in Wicca for such rituals as the Great Rite, which is a representation of the union between masculine energy, the knife, and feminine energy, the vessel. They are usually blunt and double-edged with a black handle.
Amy can't wait to see. She's gonna.
So a bowline is another type of ritual knife, and this is a curved and sharp with a it's sharp and it has a curve with the handle. So there's a bowline and an athame. We can't really tell you a lot about them, but I'm sure you can find lots of information. Just remember that they are associated with the Wiccan practice. So if you look up Wiccan ritual knives, you'll be able to find things on them. Anybody here like knives that would use them in their practice or have them?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So that was it. So we gave you your exercises. So there's the witch's box. There's to put stuff in your book of shadows. Find yourself a knife.
Tying your elements into your witch's box. Tying the elements is, for us anyways, I think we really like to include elements in our spell work or our ritual work, because we feel so connected to that.
That's very much a part of my practice anyway. The elements are.
Yeah.
In fact, everything that I have I can associate with an element, and otherwise I don't really use it. And when I sit down to do a spell, like I did a love spell for myself a while ago, to bring for the universe to bring me a romantic love. And so I put together things that I just went around my house and started collecting things that made me think of romance or love or relationships or whatever, sex. One of the things I did was took a pair of panties, and you know how you have panties and they have the little bow on them, like the cute little bow, right? I took that little bow off of that and I made that part of my little altar. And I did actually draw somebody to me, but then it was so intense and I was like, oh God, sorry. No, it's too much. I wasn't ready for it.
You will get what you asked for.
It did happen. It happened like 6 months later, and this guy was so into me, and it scared me. So I wasn't ready. Thank you for joining us tonight for week 4 of the Beginner Witch series, where we talked about the Witch's Toolbox and elements, ritual knives, wands, and a few other things. We hope to see you next week for week 5 of the Beginner Witch series.
Jamie will be back also.
Jamie will be here.
You won't have to deal with me.
Okay.